Nebraska. She actually graduated from University of Nebraska Kearney in information systems, which I love because that's my field. In my college, I am that small part of the college where we focus on that side of things. So I'm really thrilled to invite Mauri Whalen to give her talk. She is a vice president at Intel, and we are starting to explore opportunities for collaboration. In fact, we are also talking about internships with Intel. So yeah, you have an opportunity in the next 4 years. If you're thinking about college, it's a great place to come. Maybe we'll get to work for Mauri. So Mauri, welcome.
Let's see if this is on, right? Whoops. And I am too. Okay. So thanks, Deepak. It's been great to learn about all the programs that are actually going on at UNO. So yeah, I'm Mauri Whalen, and I work at Intel Corporation. And for those of you that don't know what Intel does, is we make hardware. We make silicon, we make processors, and I always have to remind myself that really the core of Intel is hardware, is silicon. You might have that little Intel Inside sticker on some device or some computer you have. But as my boss's boss has been quoted as saying, hardware without software is just heat. So I actually work on the software side. And I love to empower women. And just to start off, I used to not go to women's events. I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be like the crowd. And I thought, oh, if I go to the women's events, it's just going to drive me crazy just to feel different. And then somebody talked me into going to one and just reconnecting on, we are women, we are beautiful, we work in technology. And just to share that likeness and to share what is amazing about us kind of inspired me when I left that event. And now I go to everyone I can. So don't think that you can't connect just because you're a woman and, oh, they're going to just do this just for women. And as you can see, men attend too, because men are some of the greatest supporters of women working in technology. So thank the men for being here too. I do have Nebraska roots. I graduated from North Platte High School. Both of my parents and my grandparents and are all definitely, bound to North Platte. I still have relatives there, and now I have relatives in Omaha and Lincoln. And then after graduation, I went to the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I actually started when it was Kearney State College, and got a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Information Systems. And then since then, I've taken various graduate classes. I always thought I was going to get my graduate degree. But I'm also honest, is I played a lot of soccer. And I got to this point where it's just like, do I go to soccer or do I go to class? So I got about 75% there and just kept going with my career. But it's been such a learning opportunity with my career that I kind of feel like I've done the degree anyway, up to this point. So to start out, what was I like in high school? And it's important to tell you this because each one of these things has a little story and how I actually got into technology. Somebody asked me coming out here is, hey, Mauri, how did you get into computers? And I said, oh, yeah, we had them in our classroom in high school. And if we wouldn't have had them in our classroom in high school, I would have never known they existed. Because you have to remember, this was about 1981, 82. And the technology that exists today did not exist then. And if somebody wouldn't have made that investment and shared that technology with North Platte High School, I always wonder, how did we get such an amazing computer department in that high school at that time? I wouldn't have known it existed. So that's how I really got into computers. But some things about me is, in high school, I was always damn curious. This was my first car. It was a 1972 Pinto. It had 28,000 miles. That's important because you always buy a car for the miles that are left on it, and this one had a lot of miles left. I personally saved money to buy that car. My parents were not going to buy me a car. They made that very well known, and when I turned 16, I handed my dad $2,000, and he went out and found this car for me. The story behind this car and how it relates to, Curious and what we learn along the way is one day the fan belt broke. So here is in this car is this fan belt, and it's all frayed, and it's flopping all over the place. And I had no idea what to do. So what do? Go to my dad. Hey, something's wrong with the car. And he said, and we deduced it was the fan belt. And he let me take his car to the auto store, and I bought a new fan belt, and I brought it home. And my dad took me out to my car with a big, long screwdriver, I remember, and some wrench. And he took the frayed fan belt off, because it was actually still on. He put the new one on. He looked at me, and he's like, "You're watching, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah," because I'm just ready to go off and, be with my friends again. And then he took the new one off and put the frayed one back on. And he set down the tools, and he's like, "I'm glad you just learned how to change your fan belt. It's your car." And he walked in the house. I was aghast at my dad. But come on, what did he teach me, right? He just taught me that I could be a mechanic. Seriously. I learned everything about this car that I could. I used to change my own oil. But it took just somebody taking the time to mentor me and teach me what to do here. The other thing, I was kind of on the geeky side. I was president of the Latin Club. So what did that teach me? It actually taught me leadership, right? Without even knowing maybe what that word leadership meant, all of a sudden it was just like, oh, I'm in the Latin Club. Oh, they need a president. I was always the first to raise my hand. And all of a sudden, I have this group we have 20 people in our Latin Club, and we need to make a fundraiser and figure out how to go to the conference and what toga I'm going to wear. That was actually quite important to me. But it taught me leadership. I had a pet tarantula. Said I was on the geeky side. I can guarantee you my mom was not happy. I had this tarantula because I was in an independent science class. And basically, independent science class meant I could study whatever I wanted to. And I decided to get a tarantula and study the unconscious behaviors we exhibit when presented with something fearful. And I had no idea what I was doing, but the tarantula was fun. I grew my own mealworms. Like I said, my mom was a little on the edge. And funny enough, when I left for college and left the tarantula in my mom's care, Harry died. And then I also worked at my uncle's gas station. So off the highway near North Platte, there used to be a Standard station. I don't know if it's still there today, but my uncles owned this Standard gas station, and I used to work there and pump gas. That was my high school job. And, it was funny because that's when, you have full service and self-service, and somebody would come into full service, and I'd be the one walking out there. And sometimes the men would look at me, and I'd be like, "Do you want me to check your oil?" And they'd be like, "You can do that?" And I'd be like, "What? It's a car," right? I'd already been taught, right? So you do learn just in all these experiences. And these are some of the key things that I actually learned in high school. But then plus I learned to code, and I have a love for geometry. And I'll always thank my teacher, Mr. Ham, who was the North Platte math and computer science teacher at the time. And also, my parents never told me I couldn't do anything. And you should also know that you can do anything you want to do. They guided me, they just never limited me by telling me no. And today I am extremely grateful and blessed that I realized that. I also come from a strong lineage of women in my family. My grandma actually graduated from UNL in the 40s. This was not typical at the time. And I'm grateful for every teacher that had ever educated me. Like I gave mention to Mr. Ham, I could mention all the teachers I've had throughout my life that have made such an impact on me. And I went to 12 schools, from elementary school to high school. So I've really kind of been through the ringer. My dad was in the Air Force, so grew up in North Platte. My parents grew up in North Platte, but then my dad joined the Air Force, and then I had the life where I grew up moving every 3 years. Some people ask me, hey, Mauri, how could you stand to do that? And I'm like, well, I didn't know any different. But then when he retired, we did move back to Nebraska, and that's where I ended up going to high school and then to the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I will tell you though, and this is real, during high school, I was a bit lonely because some of my girlfriends weren't into computers like I was. I was extremely fortunate in high school that my dad opened one of the first Apple computer stores in North Platte in 1980, I think it was 81. And I had free access just to go into the store and program until my heart was content. My uncles, as part of their business, they also had these big Radio Shack RS-80s. And I could go into their offices and program until my heart's content. And I used to do this until 2 o'clock in the morning with my mom calling me on the landline. Mauri, hey, you can't do this. You can't operate this way. But none of my girlfriends ever joined me. And I had that pet tarantula, and none of my girlfriends ever wanted to play with it with me. So there was that lonely side to it. And I think that's what's so cool about you having the opportunity to be here today. Right? You get to connect with other people that are actually interested in what you're doing. And you share the common interest, and you're going to feed off each other and learn. So past that, the rest of my journey and why am I standing here today, right? So in high school, I will point out that I was an average student. I wasn't a straight A student. I like to think that I had the shiny object syndrome, where if I was in a class and I liked it, I aced it with an A. But if I was in a class and it didn't resonate with me, I just looked for the next shiny object and just kind of floated by in that class. I didn't get, bad grades, but I was no A student. Luckily, by the time I got to college, when I started college, my declared major was actually pre-mortuary. I, liked biology, but as I investigated a little bit into the more compassion side of it, it was something that I didn't understand, and it was something that made me quite uncomfortable. I think I was just too young and naive. So, plus I miss computers. So I went into the computer information systems. And after I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I literally sat down with the Dean of Computer Science, Dr. Don Carpenter, and said, I know I don't want to program. And I went to school for 5 years, college for 5 years, because I swam competitively. I sat down in his office and I said, I know I don't want to program. And all the people that I just did this college experience with are all going off, getting these jobs, being programmers. And he gave me a sheet of paper and told me you can be a program analyst, a program manager, a technical analyst, or whatever. And I just looked at this piece of paper and I said, I have no clue what I want to do. And the thing about it, if you think about it, I didn't have any strong mentors at that time. And mentors to figure out what you want to do or show you, it's like a wayfinder thing, right? Have somebody help you find your way. I didn't have a strong female mentor at the time. We had a couple women that taught classes and professors, but I didn't have that mentor. So what did I do? There's an organization called BUNAC that exists today. It allows so many US students to get a work permit and go work in Europe. I picked London because if you went somewhere else, you had to speak the language, and I don't speak a second language. and allowed so many British students then to come here. So I took off for London. I was one of the few people that knew how to use a Macintosh at the time and became a desktop publisher. Basically, it was creating PowerPoint presentations. Past that, I then took off and went to Spain and I attempted to learn Spanish. Barcelona, Spain is not the place to learn Castilian Spanish because they don't speak Castilian Spanish in Barcelona. But hey, it was fun. Don't have a knack for languages, but did it. And then my parents had moved to Kansas, so I came back to my roots, broke. I think I came back with about 25 cents in my pocket. Saved some money and had a friend that I had met in Oregon, and I took off for Oregon. And there I feel really fortunate because some of the first jobs I had, I found people that were excited about technology like I was. And this exists everywhere. I just happened to land in this little niche of people. And I've done technical support, I've been a programmer, I've been a manager, done quality assurance, had a slew of jobs. I worked at a small software startup company. I worked in an IT department in a hospital system. And today, I work at Intel. So today I'm a vice president. Often people ask me, hey, what is a vice president? I had the same question when they gave it to me. And you find at companies, there's appointed vice presidents, executive vice presidents, corporate vice presidents, and it's just a slew of titles out there. What I actually tell people is I have to set a lot of strategy. I have to make a lot of decisions. I have to give value to what we do. And I have to be able to say, hey, this is what we're going to do in the next 2 years. This is what we're going to do to be successful. I do not exist in a profit center. I'm more on the enabling side. So I don't have to bring in a dollar amount. But I really am. I'm making decisions and I'm setting strategy. These are probably some of the key things to my job that didn't exist before. I work in open source. That's why the Linux penguin is up here. I work in a group called the Open Source Technology Center. And I have a team that does Linux kernel work or virtualization work and Linux graphics work. It's all about non-Microsoft OSs. However, if you do read the news lately, Microsoft is doing a little bit more with Linux. So didn't ever think I'd see that day, but they are. I manage a fairly large team. It's about 300 people. I can tell you it's fun. I like it. I have strong emphasis on not only the engineering and the management side, but organizational health. I actually think that people don't put enough emphasis on what creates a healthy organization and what keeps a healthy organization. And like I said, I have a strong investment now in women's events and organizations. So basically, I tell people I do have an amazing job. And why is that? Because I love and I'm passionate about what I do. However, going through my career, I have been told, you got that job because you're a woman. You will never survive in the tech world as a woman. And I could add a couple more to this list. Luria showed some of the, backlash that she gets too, right? I've heard this along the way. And what's my response? Are they really that stupid? And I am dead serious. This is what I thought the first time somebody told me that. And the first time somebody told me that was when I was about 22. So I actually feel quite lucky that I have been supported and had, the mentorship and the sponsorship around me, that I was oblivious to, wait, this is just what women do. I can tell you that when I was in college, a lot of the friends I had in college were just there to get married. And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, no, we need to go conquer things, right? And they didn't have that same path. A couple of them did. But are they really that stupid, right? If somebody's going to hire me just because I'm a woman, then they're going to be miserable with me in their group. This concept was something that was really hard for me to grasp because I was not raised that way and I did not exist in that environment. So what I'll tell you is, today I work with some of the most brilliant men and women in the Linux industry. And I say men and women. And they make my life both challenging and amazing. I am extremely fortunate. But the men I work with, they don't look at me any different. I am a qualified, competent, experienced, skilled engineering manager. And every time I have those little lows where I'm like, oh my God, somebody said I was a woman, I must not be good enough, I shouldn't be in this job, I should quit. And I've had those periods of my life. I usually go tap into some of the most trusted people, and they're both men and women, and say, oh my God, should I just quit? Am I not qualified? Am I not good enough to do this? And usually those conversations turn around. And this is why it's so important to have those mentors, and it's so important to have those network of people. And also my message, if you don't find that you like where you're working, change it. There is so much opportunity out there, and you do have the power to actually change it. I have always said in my career, I only want to work with people that want to work with me. And I do kind of an environmental scan often and make sure that that is actually what's going on in my life, because I don't need negative people. I don't need people bringing me down. I always look for people that want to work with me. And I call it, if I find that something's not working, I also call it, as Gloria pointed out yesterday, yes, we have failed in some of the things that we've done. It's not always worked out. And what I always like to say is fail fast, right? Learn from it, get out of there, and get on to the next thing. Don't drag yourself through the slog of some kind of failure. Fail fast, get on and go on. Which brings me to likes, like. I'm going to switch the topic just a little bit. Like, likes, like. Say that 5 times fast. I'm not going to. What do I mean by that? This is where we talk about diversity and inclusion. If I went to a meeting and there were just 6 of me sitting around in the meeting, older picture, I have longer hair, I would be bored after about 5 minutes. If I was going, why just my brain, right? I want to know what other people have for ideas. I want to know what they think. I want them to actually challenge maybe what I think. Hey, Mauri, that's a really good idea, but have you thought of this, right? So when I say likes, like, we actually like to work with people that are like us. But it's not in your favor to do that. It's in your favor to actually work with diversity and include that diverse group, and that's called inclusion. Make them work together, because you're not going to get other people's experiences, other people's cultural differences, if you do not make them all different. So make them all different. Don't always likes in your project. It's great here. It's different than like minds, right? You want to surround yourself with like minds, but then you want to make sure that the other experiences that we have in our life are actually diverse. I'm fortunate. Intel has definitely been very public about diversity. I won't wade too much into the diversity report that they put out. I will tell you that when you do look at their diversity report, they are showing strong representation of women, and especially in leadership at Intel. They are definitely, into diversity and inclusion. They're definitely into making sure that, in that likes, like, there is nobody like me. There is nobody that grew up in North Platte, Nebraska, and then went to Kearney, and then went to England, and then somehow ended up in Oregon. And this is all part of that diversity and inclusion. And when you bring that all together, it does give you that innovation and creativity. So I am very fortunate that Intel, they do publish their diversity report. And I happen to work for a company that I truly believe is extremely serious about diversity and inclusion. I also want you to know that women drive. So when you go and actually look at some of the statistics, we make 70 to 80% of the consumer decisions. So think about that for a second. 70 to 80% of consumer decisions are driven by women. So what I want you to take away from that, if we're making purchasing decisions, then we should be creating what we're actually buying. And everybody in this room has the opportunity to influence that, right? If you want to buy a cell phone, why don't women make the cell phone? We know what we want on it, right? And that's part of that diverse group too, right? Men are going to use the cell phones too, so we want to make sure that they're part of it, right? But this is really a good example of that diversity. We also, if you think about it, that trickles out. I'm a mom of 2 boys. I have older parents. You can guarantee my older parents are calling me and asking me which cell phone to buy. I'm influencing their purchasing decisions. My kids are 9 and 12 years old. They're begging me for a cell phone. No, right? However, when that time comes, or they have tablets now, I'm influencing what they actually get to purchase. Has to be Intel architecture. Has to be Linux. It's actually not true. Well, yeah, it is true. Statistically, women are now greater than 50% of college graduates. But sadly, the number of people that are staying in technology is actually decreasing. Doesn't make any sense to me, because I really want to work on things that I am making those purchasing decisions on. But research does show that companies, when you include that diversity and you actually have women in leadership, you get a stronger return on investment. And there is so much research out there on this that I encourage you, if this is something that interests you, to go look at it. Now I'm going to show you my house. And this house is about being exposed to technology and opportunity. This is nothing more than a piece of paper that somebody has put through a printer that cuts, or one of those cutting printers. And I have a box of them back there if anybody wants one. This is going to be so simple. And I know that before coming here, I watched some of the previous CodeCrush YouTube videos, and I'm like, whoa, they really get to do some fun stuff with technology. This is simple, so simple, but it has a purpose. Here's a 3-volt battery. Here's a 3-volt LCD. You learn really fast that there's a negative and positive side, and you learn really fast that there's a negative positive side, and you learn really fast that you can light this thing up. And then you put a piece of electrical tape around it. And don't ever put all these batteries together, because you will start a fire. We did this at a kids event, but adults love to do these things. And then you stick it in there, and bam, you have a lighted house. What if nobody would have exposed me to a battery? What if nobody would have exposed me to an LED? I would not start understanding power. I would not understand electricity. I would not understand that I could make a little blinky house. Just a quick story about this blinky house and how simple it is. Power, electricity, battery, lights, right? One of my favorite people that I work with, her name is Christina Cardy. And Kristen Cardy is a Linux kernel engineer. And Kristen Cardy, she specializes in power management. So what I can tell you is, on your cell phone, I don't care if it's Android or if it's Apple, And by the way, an Apple phone does have open source Linux code in it. This thing, you want the battery to last as long as it possibly can. And this is what Kristen Accardi does, is she works with the software that's driving the hardware to be able to put this into a sleep state, to put this into a hibernate state. So you have a battery that could last 4 or 5 days. If nobody ever exposed Kristen to electricity in a battery when she was a little girl, she wouldn't be doing this as a career today. She loves what she does. Once she saved an entire watt on doing power management with Intel servers. And I'm not going to do the math, but what I do tell people is when I introduce them to Kristen, I'm like, this is Kristen. She can light up a small city. And you know what? She really can, because when you start doing power management and power savings, think of the environmental concerns this has, right? If you have these mega data centers and you're able to save enough energy to light up an entire city, huge impact to our economy, huge impact to the environment, huge money, financial savings to that company. But you have to be exposed to it to be able to do it. So that's my message to the slide in the Blinky house. And like I said, I have a box of them if you want one. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's not moving. I thought the battery might go dead. Whoops. The other thing I want to go over is just the opportunity that you guys, I'm excited that you have in front of you. If you look, did I go forward? Too many slides? Hold on. Okay, we'll just stay here. Need to be done pretty soon anyway. Like I said, I work in open source. So predominantly this is Linux. Linux is everywhere. It's in your phones. It's in your smart devices. It's in your cars. It's in media. It's in factories. It's in planes. That's what I actually specialize is operating systems, predominantly Linux operating systems. The thing that I want you to take out of this is you in technology can work anywhere on the spectrum and then even outside of it. But what I want you to take out of this is you are the people that are connecting. See if I can get this to work. You are the generation that they say by 2020 will have about $20 billion devices connected to a back end, if not more than that. Maybe it's 60 billion, maybe we've already hit 20 billion today. Nobody really knows the number, but think of the opportunity, right? You have that many billions of devices connected to a back end. What are we gonna do with all that data, right? You're going to have people that are creating the devices, the IoT devices, the phones, the smart devices. And then you're going to have people that are working in the middle. So if you look at something like graphics, and you know, I work with some colleagues in China, and the thing that they are plagued on is the amount of traffic that media is generating. Media is the number one internet usage in China. And we're doing a lot with technology there that actually is helping these big back-end data centers transcode or encode or stream this type of media. But you are the people that are creating this, and then by the time you get to the back end, you're also the people that are going to design what actually happens in the back end. And this amazing amount of data that they're going to be able to house, network, store, right? You've got all this opportunity in front of you. And you know, this is one of the exciting things about, you know, IT, UNO, right? What do you think happens at this back end, and who's going to design this? It's the people that are in the schools today, and it's the people that are going to graduate tomorrow, and it's the people that are yet to come. And this was not a plug for, UNO, but after going through an amazing program that they do have, some of these things on this back end are actually being designed here today. And it's really exciting that you actually have that opportunity. That's right, this is not working. The thing I'll also say is, like CodeCrush, you get to come here and you guys all get to collaborate on technology together. And to me, it's a lot like open source. And this is actually a quote that I once gave in an interview. Open source, for those of you that know anything about it, is very community driven. People are always out in the open doing things. And if you're not out there doing things with them, they will go on without you. And this is personally, what I love about open source, right? You have the ability to put something out there, and somebody might take it because it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you have the ability to put something out there, and somebody might take it and make it better, and they might give something back to you. Thus, you learn what they actually did, right? And it just expands this knowledge base. But it's kind of like what you guys are doing here today, right? When you go out into breakout sessions or you're doing something with technology, you're learning, hey, what did they do with it, right? And you're sharing this type of thing. So to me, events are a lot like working in open source. I'll also tell you, and I won't stay on this slide too long because it gets too worky. This is why I'm so lucky too, is, things that I've been involved in every single, from about 1990, every single one of these projects going to the other side. Some of the things that might resonate with you on this slide, yes, I get to work on Android. Yes, I get to work with Google. Yes, I get to work with Google on both Chrome, Linux graphics, Android. I get to work on data center technologies, like there's a project called OpenStack. I get to work on, just trying to think if there's anything in here. I get to work with Red Hat, Canonical, SUSE, Ubuntu. It's just amazing when you start and you keep going with these opportunities, what's presented in front of you. And this is, some of my plug for Intel and what we do in open source. Just always full of opportunities. We've got dual mic going on here. I also want you to remember, at one point in my slides of my opportunity, remember, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was darn jealous when I was in college and we have the, when you're graduating from college, everybody in the computer science department gets together and has a dinner. And everybody goes around the room and says what they're gonna do. And they get to me and I'm like, no idea. Was kind of uncomfortable at the time. But I can tell you that I'm insanely passionate about always learning. I'm insanely passionate about technology. I have continually learned all of my life. I'm as old as Moore's Law, for those of you that know what Moore's Law is. But there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not reading a trade mag. I'm not taking advantage of taking, some class. I've invested in myself. I've had coaches. I've had mentors. I have sponsors. And those are all three different things. And throughout your learnings, you'll always learn what those things are. I have a vast network of people. So, like the strengths and weaknesses that Larry went over yesterday, if I don't know how to do something, man, I just go ask for help. And I find that person that I know knows how to do it. I can conquer so much that I need other people to help me fill in those blanks. And I explore, go back to, the car, right? My dad left me out there, screwdriver, wrench. I mean, this was a long screwdriver because you had to crank something back, if I remember correctly. After my dad did that, the next thing I did was like, well, shoot, if I can change my fan belt, I can change my oil. I wouldn't attempt this today because I haven't kept up with car technology, but I just kept exploring. And I used to get myself in trouble when I worked at that gas station because I was only supposed to pump gas. But if somebody came in and wanted an oil change, oh, sure, just come in the bay, right? I wasn't certified. And you will find those times. You're the only girl in your class. You're the only girl in the meeting. You're the only girl in the blankety blank, right? You know what? I just don't care. I take advantage of, am I the only girl there? And are these the people that want to work with me? And if the answer is yes, then it's a great fit. If the answer is no, that I've gotten myself into some kind of environment that's not diverse, that's not inclusive, that doesn't appreciate diversity and having women there, then I find a way out. And I will tell you, when that guy told me when I was 22 years old, first time I heard it, right? Mauri, you're never going to succeed in this technology world because it's not a world for women, or however he said it, right? I quit. I didn't have to quit. I could have proven him wrong there, right? But I had to interface with this guy every day. And then somebody else, you know, at that same company, oh, you just got that job because you're a woman. I was just like, yeah, I'm so out of here, right? You have so much opportunity that you can change and work with the people that want to work with you. So always find those other women and girls. They're in this room. You guys get to go explore with them for the rest of the week. Solve those complex problems. You know, when we have all these devices connected to this back end and we have the amazing amount of traffic, and who knew that somebody was going to make Pokemon popular again, right? Actually, that company had a Ingress. They had the same kind of app, right? And I forget, it was, I would say it was more on the geeky side, that you had teams that you had for the masses, right? And everybody gets Pokemon in this cute little thing, right? You can solve those problems, and you have the brain power to create those next things. And keep it exciting, right? You find yourself not excited in what you're doing, go change it. And always be that woman that you absolutely love what you want, that you love what you do. And that's why we always empower each other. And that's what I have. So thank you.